Hello everyone. So I've already made the first video about the driver cards, and we're going to move on now to the Flurry cards. So the first cards that we're going to go over are the offensive specialty Flurry cards. Now what these cards do is they're the first Flurry cards to ever feature both sides playable offensively and defensively. Furthermore, you might notice a theme. These are the Zodiac cards. I have a lot of appeal for full cycles and sets like that whenever it comes to games, and I thought that it was appropriate to add the Zodiac appeal to the Flurry system. Flurries have by far and away been the most decisive of all the gameplay mechanics involving enders in the game. Players that recognize how powerful they are able to fully take advantage, and players that are learning the game tend to stray away from them because they are a little complicated and a little hard to do overall. But aside from that, I wanted to get into what these do. Now, if you haven't noticed, that's a lot of charge. Yep. -7 for 2+ cards. Well, that's the rate that you got to pay if you're going to be able to play on both sides. The original offensive one is Hornet Hive, and it's -5 for 2+ cards. And in this case, you're paying 2 extra charge for the same value, but Hornet Hive cannot block. And this card says -4 for 1 block. So while it seems like it's a bit of a, overall neg, because you're also having an extra damage in the deck, because Hornet Hive is 1 damage, is 3 damage, this means that you're taking an extra damage if this card's milled. So it's a risk and reward strategy, but that's the price you pay in order to be able to have an advantage overall in the game. Moving on to the next one, we have Allura Virgo. Allura Virgo is the same thing, just add 1 to everything except for the defensive bonus. That's right. So these cards do not give you a exceptionally high defensive stat until you get to gold tier, which means that you have to risk more damage in the deck overall to be able to have that level of versatility. -8 for 3+ cards is actually not a terrible rate overall. And having the -5 for 1, again, it's not amazing, but it's there. And that's very important for players to remember. Moving on, Dance of Gemini, -9 for 4+ cards and -7 for 2+ cards. Yep, you get an extra 2 cards whenever you play it on defensive side, but it's also an extra damage in the deck, and it costs more offensively to use. But I think that these cards are going to add a much needed layer of versatility to the Flurry players overall. And finally, Arrow of Sagittarius. This has by far and away the highest charge cost payout in the entire game for a card. -10 for 6 extra cards. And then finally, -8 for 2 extra cards. This is a very, very high statted card overall. It takes a lot to be able to get it to work, but when it does work, it works. So, moving on to the defensive side. These are effectively going to be mirrors of the previous 4 cards. Pulse of Pisces, and again, if you haven't noticed, I have a cycle here. So, you have the blue ones, which are the water signs. Those are all the bronzes. You have the earth signs, which are yellow, and those are all the silvers. The air signs, which are green, and those are all the golds. And finally, the fire signs, which are red, which are all the platinums. And this is the first of the water signs, which is Pulse of Pisces, which is again -4 for 1+ card on offense, but -7 for 2+ cards on defense. And it's a bronze. Moving past that, Horn of Capricorn, same stats as previous, just inverted. Surge of Aquarius, which is the defensive version of the Dance of Gemini. And Shield of Aries, which again, -10. So between Shield of Aries and Arrow of Sagittarius, you have the highest overall charge cost payout for any card ever produced. So hopefully these cards are going to see some play because, again, the Zodiac is appealing. But moving on to the last and final group of 4, which are the Dynamic Flurry cards. Dynamic Flurry cards are in a category of their own. They deal damage to the player after they're used, as they have a shattered charge symbol, resulting in them going to the damage zone after being played. They do not go into the charge zone, which means you're paying 3 life in addition to the 6 charge to get 1 extra card on either side, but it's playable on both sides for the same exact rate. So if players are willing to risk it or have access to abilities like Nature's Gift, you have the ability to heal yourself off from these damage dealing flurries that can also assist you in combat. Moving on, we have Rush of Taurus, which is again -7 for 2+ on both sides, but 4 damage played, 4 damage to you. And then the last 2 are Judgment of Libra, which is -8 for 3+ cards, and 5 damage to you. And lastly, the Roar of Leo, which is 6 damage to you, -9 charge for 4 extra cards on either side. Of all these cards, these by far and away have the best overall rates when it comes to added cards to your stack and versatility, but you do pay that life to be able to access them. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you at TCGCon in Denver, where these cards will first be released. And I can't wait to see the new strategies that are coming with the brand new Flurry cards, and maybe we'll finally crack through that glass ceiling and players overall will appreciate Flurries as an overall weapon style. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.